All right, let's dive into something really mind-bending today. Causal set theory. It tries to explain what the universe is made of, like at the most basic level. And we're going to explore this through a really cool conversation between Andrei and ChatGPT 4.0. Kind of like having a physics lesson straight from the future, you know?
It's such a fascinating conversation. They go deep into some huge questions. I mean, they're basically rethinking space and time. And they even touch on whether time and cause and effect, could be illusions, and whether information even needs conscious observers to exist.
Whoa, that's a lot to unpack.
For sure.
So, to start things off, ChatGPT 4.0 gives us a breakdown of causal set theory. Imagine that space-time is actually not this smooth fabric, more like it's made of these teeny tiny points. They call them events.
Yeah, and these points, these events, they're not connected by some force. What links them is cause and effect, like a cosmic chain reaction.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. So it's not about a smooth flow. It's more like a cosmic connect the dots.
Exactly.
But here's where things get really wild. ChatGPT 4.0 says these points, the way they're scattered in space-time, it's all random. And not just computer random, like truly random.
Right. And this randomness, it's not just a little quirk. It's how they bring quantum mechanics into the picture. It's like the universe has this built-in unpredictability.
Like it's flipping a coin to decide what happens next.
Yeah, exactly.
So in this conversation, Andrei really goes for it, asks the big questions like, where does this randomness even come from? Especially since computers can't really do true randomness, right?
Yeah, he doesn't hold back. And that question about randomness, it's something that's bugged scientists forever, but ChatGPT 4.0 makes a key point here. There's a huge difference between true randomness and what computers do, like the pseudo-randomness.
Okay, so algorithms versus something else.
Yeah. Imagine flipping a real coin versus a computer simulating a coin flip. The real coin, you can't truly predict it.
So we're saying with causal set theory, this quantum randomness, it's not just some side effect. It's like baked into space-time. The universe is playing a game of chance at the most basic level.
Totally. And then Andrei, he points out that this randomness, it kind of suggests that things in time happen in this discrete way, right? Like each moment's a separate step, not a continuous flow.
Oh, interesting. So it's not all smooth sailing. It's more like the universe is hopping between these points in time.
Right. And ChatGPT 4.0 agrees, saying this discreteness, it actually messes with the smooth, predictable way we think about physics. Like with classical physics, if you knew everything about a system at the start, you could predict the future perfectly.
But in a universe where randomness is calling the shots, forget about it.
Yeah, there's always that element of surprise. Instead of one set path, it's like the universe is picking from different possibilities. And each event, that's a point in space-time.
It's wild to think that this random selection process is shaping reality as we know it.
Right. It's almost like randomness is a code telling the universe which path to take.
Okay, now my brain is officially hurting. But even with this randomness, there's got to be some level of predictability, right?
Absolutely. And that's where probability swoops in.
So we can't predict a single coin flip, but we know if we flip it enough times, it'll be about half heads, half tails.
Exactly. It's like the universe might make random choices, but probability makes sure those choices end up making sense over time. It's all about the bigger picture.
So the universe is kind of wild and random at the micro level, but zoomed out, there's still order?
Exactly. It's like those abstract paintings that look like a mess up close, but then you step back and there's this whole pattern you never saw before.
Okay, that's a great way to put it. But now, I'm going to throw a real curveball. What if we took time out of the picture?
All right, now we're going full-on mind-bending.
No time, no past, present, future. It's like everything that's ever happened is happening and will happen. It's all just there at once.
Yeah, it's called the block universe view. And in this view, ChatGPT 4.0 says randomness as we know it, it basically disappears. Because randomness means you could be surprised by the future. But if there's no future, there's no surprise. It's already all laid out.
Whoa. So it's like saying probability in a timeless universe. It wouldn't be about predicting what happens, but about how things are arranged in this unchanging structure.
Exactly. Like instead of unfolding over time, all the possibilities, they just exist side by side.
Okay, my head is officially spinning. But wait, we got to bring in Einstein here, right? Didn't he show us that time is relative?
Oh, yeah, good point. And that throws a whole new wrench into things. If time itself isn't absolute, then randomness and causality, they get a relativistic makeover too.
So what looks random to one person might not be random to someone else, like if they're moving at different speeds or in different gravity fields.
Exactly. There's no single timeline for everyone. It's all relative. What you see as a random event, someone else might see it completely differently.
So even randomness isn't really solid. It's just another way of saying there's not one single absolute truth.
Right. It all comes down to your perspective. It's amazing how all of this really challenges how we usually think about the universe. You know what I mean? Like, even cause and effect starts to get a little shaky when you throw relativity in there.
Yeah, it's like the universe is telling us, hey, there's not just one answer for what caused what. It all depends on where you're standing.
Exactly.
And then Andrei takes it even further. He brings up this idea that how much information we have about something like a system that determines how much causality it has.
Oh, that's such a cool idea. And ChatGPT 4.0 really runs with it, explaining that the more info you've got, the less random things seem.
Well, basically, the more we know, the more cause and effect we see.
Exactly. Think about a simulation. If you knew everything about a system, you could predict exactly what it would do. There wouldn't be any randomness because you'd know what's going to happen next.
Right, that makes sense. But in real life, we don't have all the information about anything, especially with big complex things like the weather or the entire universe.
For sure. And that's where randomness sneaks in. It's not necessarily that the universe is just chaotic. It's more like our knowledge is limited.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle, but you only have half the pieces.
Right. And that's similar to what we know about quantum mechanics, right? We can't know both the position and momentum of a particle perfectly. So we only see probabilities because we don't have all the info.
So randomness is more about what we don't know, not necessarily how the universe works. That's a pretty big shift in thinking.
It is.
But if information is so important, then how does causal set theory actually define it? Like, what is information?
Yeah, that's the big question. ChatGPT 4.0 gets into some wild ideas about the nature of information itself. In regular computers, we think of info as bits, ones, and zeros. But with quantum computers, things get way more complex, with qubits that can be in multiple states at once.
So it's not just yes or no answers anymore. It's more about possibilities.
Exactly. And it gets even wilder. ChatGPT 4.0 suggests that information is really about differences. Like, it doesn't exist in just one thing, but comes from the relationships between things.
So you need context.
Yeah. Think about a particle's location. It only has meaning compared to something else. Information needs that connection.
This makes me think about those points in causal set theory. Could each event be like a bit of information connected to others by cause and effect?
That's a really cool connection. ChatGPT 4.0 hints at that idea, saying that networks might be how we understand information. Like, each node in the network is a piece of info linked to others.
So instead of a universe full of objects, it's more like a giant web of information.
That's the picture these theories are painting. Space-time might not be a smooth fabric, but more like a structure of connected information.
That's such a huge change from how we usually think about reality.
It is.
But Andrei points out something really key in all this talk about information. There's a pattern. You need at least two perspectives to define information and structure.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can have information without a contrast, something to compare.
It's like information doesn't just need two perspectives. It needs them to be aware of each other. Like they acknowledge each other's existence.
I like that. And for information to make a structure, each perspective needs some kind of memory so it can last through time.
So memory helps us remember those differences that create information in the first place.
Right. And ChatGPT 4.0 takes it even further, suggesting that reality itself might not be about stuff, but about these connected awarenesses. It's a big change from a material worldview to one where consciousness is fundamental.
So instead of consciousness coming from matter, it's the other way around.
Exactly. And if reality is built from this connected awareness, what we see as the material world might just be how these perspectives interact.
It's like the universe is this huge conversation where everyone's sharing information and shaping each other's realities.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And then randomness comes back into play. What looks random to one person might make sense to someone else with a different view.
Yeah, like saying randomness isn't really a thing, but just shows how limited our perspective is.
So the more connected we are, the more we know, and the less random things become.
Right.
And that leads to this amazing idea. What if the universe is a giant network of observers, each with their own perspective, memories, and awareness, all interacting?
It's a beautiful image that we're not just isolated individuals, we're part of this massive cosmic conversation.
It's like our thoughts, actions, even our feelings. They all contribute to the story of reality.
It really makes you think about how important even the small things are.
It really makes you think,
Yeah.
Our perspectives, our thoughts are all part of this bigger conversation.
Yeah.
But how do we actually live in a universe where everything's so connected?
Yeah, that's the tough question. This whole conversation, it challenges us to see ourselves and the universe in a new light. We're used to thinking about things as separate, solid objects interacting in predictable ways.
But causal set theory and all this talk about information and consciousness, it points to something way more fluid, way more relational.
Right. Instead of a universe of things, it's more like a universe of relationships. Recognizing those differences, acknowledging other perspectives, that's what creates reality.
So the boundaries we think are there, between us and the world, between the observer and the observed, maybe they're not so solid after all.
Exactly. And it makes you realize that our actions, thoughts, even intentions, they're all having an effect, not just on us, but on the whole web of existence.
Wow, that's both humbling and kind of terrifying.
It is. And it brings up this question. If awareness is shaping reality, then how do we understand ourselves? How do we act when we realize how much impact we have?
ChatGPT 4.0 doesn't give us all the answers, but it does give us a hint. The more aware we are of ourselves and this interconnectedness, the more we can contribute to a more meaningful reality.
It's like our consciousness isn't just a window to the world, it's a tool to shape it. The more clarity and compassion we bring, the more it's reflected in the universe around us.
That's a beautiful thought, but also a little daunting. It's like we're not just along for the ride, we're actually co-creating the journey.
Totally. And with that comes responsibility. If our thoughts and actions are shaping reality, we have to choose them carefully. Recognize the impact we have, not just on ourselves, but on all those other perspectives.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into causal set theory, I'm left with this feeling of wonder, a sense of possibility, but also a commitment to really pay attention to everything.
That's what it's all about. Causal set theory and these ideas about information and consciousness, they're not just abstract things, they're invitations to explore ourselves, our relationships, and our place in all of this.
Yeah, to really connect. So to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep questioning, cultivate that awareness. And remember, you're not just observing the universe, you're a part of it. Until next time.